Hello all. Yeah, I hope you guys are all well. Today is day 3 of vulnerability management. We are going to start with vulnerability management today. Today's agenda is, as I already know that in last 2 days we have worked on uh, cyber security and information security. Then we have understood some part of network security as well in last session. Today is day 3 with the vulnerability management. We will understand mitigations, we will understand CVEs, we will understand that how exactly vulnerabilities are working, how we can identify the vulnerabilities, some of the tools we will also understand. So this is today's agenda of day 3, vulnerability management. Then we have what is exactly vulnerability management is. So first of all, if I start vulnerability management, what exactly vulnerability management is, I would like to tell you that vulnerability management is again a different domain in the field of cybersecurity, as we have worked on day 1, right? So we have understood different type of domains in cybersecurity field, right? So vulnerability management is one of the domains of cybersecurity. So we can say that this is a subdomain of cybersecurity in which different teams are working. So now this is again relatable to the small organizations, medium organizations, and large organizations, right? That is like the question again arises. So again, we are starting with the small organizations, medium organizations, and large organizations. That is like, if we are starting with the vulnerability management, then this is again a part of security which we are providing to different organizations. And this is also a domain to protect our devices, whatever the devices we have, network security devices. Yesterday we talked about different type of devices, firewalls we have, different type of assets we have on which we are running Windows operating system. Then we are running the Linux operating system, Red Hat Enterprises operating system. All these type of operating systems we are running on our infrastructure, or we can say inside the organization we could have. So if I talk about the large organizations, then we are already aware about that. If we have the large organization, then they could have the cloud support. Then they have the Linux various Linux servers, around 500 Linux servers, 500 Windows servers they have. Then they have different type of firewalls as well, right? Then they have different type of scanning tools as well. Then they have different type of applications, different type of domain DNS. So these are the type of large organizations we have, right? If I talk about medium size of organization, then again medium size of organization is still working on the vulnerability management, and they have a dedicated team of vulnerability management team as well, right? So that is why we added this particular domain in this boot camp. Right. Now, if I shift to day, that is like day 1, where we were working about the small organization. So small organizations are not really very much into the vulnerability management, but yes, they do not as much as that dedicated team over there. But if they have deployed the SOC team, right, then those teams are only just running the scans over the devices, whatever the devices they have. It doesn't, right? So the thing is, if they have the devices inside the infrastructure, whether it is not that much devices, they are only using 10 devices, 10 of Windows server, then they are using 20 of Linux servers, right? Then again they need to scan all of those for vulnerability identification within the organizations. All right, so now come back to the what exactly vulnerability management is. So vulnerability management is a systematic process used to identify, evaluate, treat, and report for security issues. Whatever the security issues, if we have within our organization, right? So that could identify all those vulnerabilities within our organization, and this is completely with the IT environment if we are having one. Right? It doesn't mean it will only scan for the firewall, it will only scan for the on-prem devices. No, this is not the case. If we have a cloud environment, cloud infrastructure, if we have, right, then on that again it can scan all of those network in Coming time, we will also understand about one of the vulnerability management tool, how it is exactly scanning. We will understand the functionality. Then this is also working on identification, assessment, prioritization, remediation, verification, reporting and documentation, continuous improvement. These are the few components on which tells us that what exactly vulnerability management is and where we are exactly going over there. So one by one, I will give you the complete idea about what all those components are there and what exactly they are, right? Then if I talk about identification, the first one, if we have, you can see on your screen, right? Identification is basically for the scanning, right? And that is the regularly using tools to scan the system, right? To identify the flaws in network, flaws in applications, okay, on which we can identify the vulnerabilities, right? After that, we have to mitigate all of those vulnerabilities if we have inside our infrastructure, right? Then, if I talk about some tools, then there are Nessus, Qualys, right? OpenVAS is again a vulnerability management tool. One tool is also IBM is providing, which is QVM, QRadar Vulnerability Management. Okay, so they are providing these type of tools, and yes, really, if the infrastructure, if we have the infrastructure where we are using IBM QRadar, then might be possible we have also purchased the license of QVM and we are running the scans of on the basis of that, right? Then we have assessment. So we are also doing the security assessment on all the devices we have inside our infrastructure, inside our organization. Doesn't matter if it is a small organization, large organization, or a big organization, right? Then it has a risk evaluation we have to do inside the assessment, right? Accessing the severity of identified vulnerabilities. After identification, we have to cater the severity of identified vulnerabilities. Okay, so vulnerabilities are identified on the basis of scores. Okay, so right now, then how we are scoring on the basis of those? There are like critical vulnerabilities, medium level of vulnerabilities, then we have high priority of vulnerabilities, and we have low priority. Then, if we have the priority wise distinguish in between all the vulnerabilities, if we have found, then we are going ahead with critical vulnerability first to patch those, okay, to mitigate those vulnerability, but wherever we have identified. Then same we are going with the high priority of vulnerabilities, then we are going for medium, then we are going for the low. So this is our priority if we are working into the defense side of the severity vulnerability management side. So this is how exactly we are going ahead with mitigation side. Okay, so this comes under the assessment. Third component, we have prioritization. Again, I have told you that the criticality. This often involves accessing the business context and potential impact of operations. How our CVV ID, okay, how a vulnerability which we have identified or our tool has identified, how it is exactly accessing the business context, how it is important to patch and how it is not important to patch. If it is critical, then we have to go ahead and take necessary actions as soon as possible. If we have high priority of vulnerability, then again we have to take the necessary actions within 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours, right? But you have to patch, right? Then if we have low priority or we have medium priority, then we have 1 week, or for low priority, we again have a week, 1 week to patch all of those, to take action on those type of vulnerabilities, right? Then we have remediation. Once we have identified the vulnerability, once we have identified the mitigations, right? So mitigations in the sense that there could be a patch for that particular operating system. For an example, I can give you one example. Okay, so see on your screens, right? So this is what, like, suppose this is your server. Okay, this is one of the server, you can say the Windows server, Linux server, whatever it is, right? This is just an example. Now over this server you are running Linux, okay, suppose, okay, and over this Linux operating system there is a version going on which we have a vulnerability, which our tool, the vulnerability management tool, has identified. Right now, this is our tool, and with this tool, I can say that this is a Nessus tool. Okay, sorry for the right. Uh, this is the Nessus tool. Okay, and this Nessus tool is directly connected with your server. Okay, and server is connected with your Nessus tool. Right, I'm not going deep into it, right, how it is exactly connected. If the guys who are already working in security and if they know, then please comment that how exactly they are connected with each other. Okay, and I will react on that. So come back to the topic. Nessus is directly connected with the Linux device. Okay, now this Nessus is running the scan on this server. Scan. Okay, we can schedule the scan and we can manually run the scan. If we are running manually, then we can run anytime. If we are running scheduled, then we have to schedule it for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year gap. Right? This is how we can do. But 6 month and 1 year will be more than the enough time. So we are working on 3 months of scanning or 1 month of scanning. Right? So if it is scanning on this server and this Nessus server has identified, okay, on this Linux operating system, if you are using 10.1, so 10.1 is vulnerable to this particular vulnerability. Uh, I am not suggesting any type of vulnerability name, but the thing is, if it has identified the vulnerability on version 10.1, okay, now what we will do is simple functionality is, so we will identify whether is there any update is present for this particular operating system or not. We in the sense the vulnerability management, right? If it is present, then the vulnerability management team or the owner of those servers, this server, owner of this server, the Unix team, you can say this is a Unix server. So they will run a upgrade or you can say update on this server, right? On this server they will run, then they will upgrade this particular Linux server to 10. Okay, 10.2 will give the patch of all the vulnerabilities which 10.1 was having. Okay, so this is exact thing which we are doing as of now. There is again a thing which I can say the name is 0-day vulnerability. Okay, so the 0-day vulnerability is, suppose the researchers have identified one of the vulnerabilities. Okay, now the vulnerability is related to one of a operating system or one of a device which is for which we do not have any type of upgrade, right? For which we do not have any type of patches, right? So that is called the 0-day vulnerabilities. Okay, so what we will do in that case if we have identified a 0-day vulnerabilities, right? So as of now, before identifications, your tools are also not working. We will work on the how the tools are working for vulnerabilities. But if I'm talking about the 0-day vulnerability, right, for which we do not have any type of patch, right? The patch is not available. Vendor has not released any type of patch, no new version, you cannot upgrade it, right? So what you will do is, so simply the vulnerability management team will sit and the owner will sit, the device owner, or you can say the security team will sit, right? So they will identify support like what all the alternative solutions we can take to avoid this vulnerability for a time being till the time we have get the patch from the vendor, right? So this is how they are working, and this is 0-day vulnerabilities. Okay. Now, if I go ahead, then there is vulnerability identification. Now, vulnerability identification is again a very crucial phase for all of us, which means those guys who are working in as a manager, okay, those who are working into the vulnerability management team, right? And if they have identified some type of vulnerabilities inside their infrastructure, right, or any of the organizations, if they have identified, right, so they will discover, they will create a report over it, okay, after identification, right? Then they will create a report. Nowadays the tools can only create the report, okay, automated report. You need to submit those, then security team will take a necessary action, or the owner of that particular devices will take a necessary action. So this is what I am telling you, that who will take the necessary action. This is exactly I am telling you that what industries are doing and how the work is happening in the industries, and which all the teams are responsible for these type of things, right? Now they will identify these type of vulnerabilities. Identification has been done. Weakness we have identified, right? Flaws we have identified within the devices and within the organization inside the IT systems. Then applications and network that could potentially can be exploited by the attackers. Okay, so I will come on this diagram, but first of all, I would like to share one thing with you guys. Okay, that how attacker will exploit it and what will be the case, right? I am just telling you the scenario, one scenario. Okay, suppose this is the attacker system. You can say that this is the attack, right? Now this is one of the organization systems. Again, I am creating a server. Okay, please ignore my drawing, right? I'm not getting that. I'm saying that this is a Windows server. No problem. Windows 10 is running over there, or the virtual machine is running over there. Whatever the things we have, right? Now, over this server, one web application is running. Okay, web application is running, right? Now that web application, we already know that if it is a web application, then there could be a public face. Okay, means I'm not part of the organization. And suppose that Instagram is for public use. Now I'm going on Instagram searching for the websites, right? Now I have scanned that particular website. I will show you that how you can do it, right? Then if any attacker has identified some type of vulnerabilities on the web application, on which we talked about yesterday, SQL injection, right? There is again a vulnerability. XSS, cross-site scripting is again a vulnerability. So if an attacker is trying, and if they have identified any type of vulnerability over there, right? So they will try to exploit. Okay, attacker is trying. Attacker is just go and trying the attacks, different type of attacks. He will try SQL injection, didn't find. XSS, didn't find. Broken authentication, yes, we have identified. Right. Now you are using the default credentials. Just like default credentials are like admin or admin, username and as admin, or password as admin. So this is the type of vulnerability, or this is the broken authentication which you are using as of now. Right. So this would be a possibility. If suppose they have identified the SQL injection, no problem. Right. So they will simply go and exploit this, and they will take the charge of your data. So whatever the data we have seen on day one and day two, right? So they can get the access to these particular data. This is how they will exploit the vulnerability. Right. The same thing if I tell you for this one on the screen, right? Now, if I say pointer as pen, okay. Now this is the attacker which you can see up here, right? What it is exactly doing, I'm trying to tell you that how they are working with the vulnerabilities, okay, and how they are identifying and how they are exploiting. Now attacker has identified that there is a vulnerability over a website, okay. So this has sent forgot password email to one of the user. For those the account has been logged out. Okay, so center will send here. You can see that it has sent forgot your password. Now post password reset HTTP evil user.net. Right now, this website which we are having here, this is vulnerable. Vulnerable for what? Vulnerable in the sense, uh, the passwords reset request has went from this. Okay, this is the vulnerable website which you can see up here. Now, if this user is trying to get any type of links over there, right? This is the vulnerable website which has already been vulnerable or poisoned by the attack. right? Now, whatever the things this particular is user is trying to download or doing something, then this will send a message to the evil user what exactly he is writing this username or password. In a simple matter, in a layman term, I can tell you this website is vulnerable for what? This website is vulnerable for if this user is putting his username or password on this website, right? Then this website will simply send the request to this attacker because this is already poisoned by the attack, right? So whatever the things this user is typing, this attacker can simply see that, right? So if this attacker can see whatever he's typing, the tokens and all, so he can simply go ahead and take the charge of this particular website, right, with his name, and after that he will change the password. Then this has been done with the account takeover. This vulnerability called the account takeover, right? So this is how vulnerabilities are exactly working, and this is how the attackers are targeting all of those vulnerabilities inside a network, or you can say for web applications, right? Now here to these things are working. These are the component of vulnerability identification. First they will do the asset discovery, right? So all these steps we will perform slowly, right, for the tools, right? Then vulnerability scanning we have done. We have different type of tool, Nessus, IBM Curate, this QBM, Qualys, these type of tools we have. So we have done the scanning, right? If we are running the manual assessment or not, right? Manual assessment, like we are doing the security testing, there we have identified, right? Now threat assessment, is there any threat for any of the devices, or is there any threat for our organization? So for threat assessment, we are using one tool, which is a simple, which I told you yesterday. Okay, so I will tell you that one as well. Patch management system that we have, right? Then patch management system, if I say, just like what to say, that is running with the particular type of patch management system. Okay, this is running behind the tool. Okay, the system, or you can say the Nessus tool if we have, then the Qualys tool we have. This is one. Identify the missing patches and updates that could expose the vulnerabilities to any of them after the scanning. I am done. Okay. So now after that we have social engineering tests, right? The social engineering. Then we have the purpose of this one is human behavior and organizational processes, how I can social engineer one of the user and gather their username or passwords or the authorization I can take, or I can get the username and password for that particular application, or wherever they are trying to log in, I can get those credentials to me. Okay, so this is called the vulnerability identification. These are the components which are working with vulnerability identification in real time. Right, this is done. This diagram. Right, now we will work on this vulnerability analysis, which is again telling you the functionality, how these vulnerabilities are exactly working. Right, so vulnerability analysis is a crucial phase for all the organization to identify the vulnerability. Right, then it involves and identify vulnerability to understand their potential impact, severity, and appropriate response actions. Right. Moving ahead, I would like to tell you, we will work on this diagram. Right. But first of all, I would like to tell you one of the things. Right. Let me share my screen with you guys. That slide. Okay. Identifying the database. Yeah, here I have identified the database on your screens. Okay, so on your screen you can see that common vulnerability exposure, CVE stands for common vulnerability exposure, right? Now this is the database from MITRE organization, which is exactly working on CVE IDs, right? CVE IDs is like, I can say that I talked about 0-day vulnerabilities, right? Now those are 0-day vulnerabilities if any researchers has identified. Okay, now giving that particular vulnerability a name or an identification, common vulnerability exposure, the year on which year it has identified, suppose it is 2024, right, and a number, okay, which number it belongs to or which position it is up to. Okay, so you can read the CV news, CV podcast, CV blogs and all. So now numbering authorities, they are working. Now you can download the list of all the CVEs organizations, right? Request CVE IDs. You can request for the CVEs IDs what all the common vulnerability exposure if they have identified. Okay, and how the things are exactly working for them. Okay, you can even download from here. Okay, and this will give you the exact idea about CVE. Now the CVE ID if you have found, okay, then you can run the search over here, okay, and you can find it. This database will give you that that particular CVE ID belongs to which one. I can write one CVE ID just like year 2024. Okay, not 4, just not on the 3 one, right? And we have 0987. Might be possible to identify something. Yeah, so here on your screens, CVID 2023. This one is the year, okay, on which year we have identified the vulnerability. Okay, and this is common vulnerability exposure. This is common, right? And 0987 is the numeric value, or you can say the position of that particular vulnerability. So this is the 987th vulnerability which they have identified in the year 2023. Right now, what record is telling? Okay, who exactly worked on it, right? Published, when it got published for the general public, and when it get updated means is there any another type of vulnerability which is associated with the same title, source code star online pizza ordering system cross-site scripting. Might be possible on this website they have identified this cross-site scripting vulnerability. Okay, so the complete description you can read up here. Okay, so this will give you what exact vulnerability is there, and the code index.php page is supposed to check out. You can identify this cross-site scripting over there. Okay, this is not a full URL, but this is a part of that particular URL for this the online pizza ordering website will be there. Okay, now the vulnerability name is cross-site scripting, the XSS, which we worked on last to last class. Right, so this is how you can identify, and this is how you can run the scan over there, right, to identify this CVID belongs to which one. Okay, if you want to go over there, then they will open this reporter as well, and you can get the more idea about it. Okay, so this is exactly we are working for our tools and the systems for which we can identify CVIDs belongs to. Okay, going forward we will understand some more tricks. Okay, now this is one of the diagram how exactly the vulnerability scanning tools are working within the organization or wherever you are. So right now I'm running the vulnerability scanner in my system, right? This is the Nessus scanner. Okay, wait a moment. Let me log into that. Invalid credentials. Let me check my credential once. I forgot. Okay, so till the time you can tell me in the chat or the comments that who are already worked with Nessus or whether they have used the Nessus tool anyway, right? So let me know in the comment section and I will react on this. Now, yeah, the Nessus is ready. You can see on your screens. Okay, so this is the Nessus scan used by Tenable. Okay. Now, I have downloaded the Nessus as a ascensions over here. Okay, and this is the exact tool. I will tell you the functionality of this particular tool which we are going to use. Right now, coming back to this diagram. Okay, here. So server-based scanning, one thing. Second thing, we have the cloud-based scanning. Okay, so if we have uh, vulnerability tools, right now they are using server-based scanning or the cloud-based scanning, right? Which means over the server, on this server, suppose this is on-prem server, right? Now over this server, we have downloaded the Nessus tool, okay, the vulnerability management tool. Then this is going and scanning all these devices which are there in the environment, whatever the devices you have, right? If I talk about cloud-based scanning, then again, a few of the cloud resources are again providing you the scanning systems, just like Microsoft Azure, it is providing you the Defender, so you can go and scan all your networks, right? Or you can scan your devices, you can scan your the Linux servers, the other cloud systems, you can scan. There is no problem. So we are right now we are using this Nessus, which is a server-based scanning. Okay. Now, on which type of identification or component it will go. So that is like detecting vulnerabilities in devices. First function. Then virtual infrastructure you have deployed over a virtual infrastructure. So this can also go to virtual appliances. Okay, if you are using any virtual machines within the environment, you can scan all of those. Now with mobile devices you can scan data in motion, you can send, which means Nessus for network. Okay, whatever the traffic is going inside and going out, coming inside and going outside, you can scan that particular data as well, data in motion. Okay, there are two type of things, data in rest and data in motion. Motion in the sense means the data is directly traveling. Data in rest means you have stored the data somewhere on the database or the bucket you have purchased, Amazon S3 bucket you have purchased. Okay, so that is called data in rest. Suspicious connections for you. Okay, there is no lag, nothing. So they are detecting on real time. Okay, they are detecting on real time. Okay, there is no lag, nothing. So they are working on the real time, right? Now, so this will identify that I need to work on the local file database applications you need to work on for any of the device. If there is a server, you need to work for the applications, which means database, or you can say whatever the applications you guys are using. Okay. Once again, I would like to show you one more thing. The same thing basically. OAuth top 10 for web, right? I'm opening it. OAuth top 10 for web. Now suppose here you can see the vulnerabilities of web application which would be common in the year 2021, which whenever they have identified. In the year 2021, they have identified these particular vulnerabilities on web applications. Broken access control, cryptographic failure, injection, insecurities. Now, if we are using the scanner, right? Now that scanner is scanning the system or scanning the web applications, but how exactly the scanner know what I need to scan? Okay, and how I will identify the vulnerabilities over there, right? So this is the case which is just like they will take this database, which means Nessus will take this database and this will go to that web application, and that particular scanner will try with all these faults over that web application for which you have given the URL. If they have identified any of the problem related to these vulnerability, so it will give you, okay, your web application has injection vulnerability or broken access control vulnerability. Okay, now they have all the functionalities, which means for injection they have particular queries, okay, which is already there in the software, the plugins if we are using. Then for broken access control, how we need to do it, then the tool will have the idea that how exactly I need to identify the broken access. So they will go try for the scanning, try for the different rules, try for the plugins, then it can identify open there is a vulnerability. So this was the function which I just identify, which I just explained to this how the scanners are exactly making it possible to scan and identify the vulnerabilities. Okay, they can even scan your router as well and other devices, laptop, IDS, IPS, firewall, internet, which means this data in motion, right? For that they need a smartphone, wireless connections. Okay. Now, this was the functionality of all these scanning tools. I'm not talking just about the Nessus or not talking about just the Qualys one. So this is the functionality for all of those. And we are creating the report on the basis of that as well. Right? Now, once we have identified the vulnerability on our system or somewhere else, then we will start working on the remediation planning, right? How to remediate those, then upgradation we will do, some patch we will run. Okay, most of the time we are running the upgradation for all the security systems and the applications if we are using, if vendor has released those. If we do not have such type of patches which have been released yet, right, or we do not have any such type of upgradation from the vendor side, then we are going ahead for the another path, which is just like the temporary solution from where we can avoid this particular problem from our organization so that somebody came from outside and they will exploit. Okay, this is the case which I'm telling. Now, again, we will prioritize all those critical vulnerability, high priority vulnerability, medium, and low priority vulnerabilities. Okay, on the basis of that, we are working on it. This is called vulnerability analysis. Right. Now, if I talk about the Nessus tool, let's work on the Nessus tool once. Okay, where is that? Yeah. Okay, so this is your Nessus tool, right? Uh, this is the free version which I have downloaded, and this is Nessus Essentials. If you want to download it, then you can simply go on Nessus website, right? Nessus download. I can tell you how you can go ahead with those. Here you need to go. Okay, you can enable Nessus. This is for vulnerability scanning. This is the Nessus agent from where you can get the logs from the different systems as well. This is again a functionality of Nessus Enable, which they are providing. Tenable Nessus network monitor. The same I told you that if there is a network which you are using the internet, the traffic you want to scan, what type of traffic it is, network monitor will network monitor will do for you. Okay. Now Tenable Security Center, it will work on real time by the way. Okay. Integrations you can work, sensor proxy you can download for, because sensor proxy and integrations are working on big environment. We do not need those. The medium, small or large organization, they are working, if they are working with the different type of devices, okay, if I talk about Tenable security, then again you can use Tenable for OT security as well. And this is how you can use for Tenable cloud security as well. You can scan your clouds and for a real time basis, right? If I talk about Tenable Nessus, which I downloaded, okay, and on which we are working, so that is just like the simple tool which is here. If you are using the Windows, then you can select Windows and you can simply download, right? So this is the case from where you can download, and these are the functionality which Tenable Nessus is providing to you guys. Okay. Now come back to the Nessus one. Okay, this one is the Nessus. Before going ahead, I would like to show you one more thing, which is just like this Tenable news. Okay, what they are providing. Let's okay. So let me know in the comments as well, you guys, if you have ever been worked on CVEs or any other different type of tools for vulnerability management, or if you have the experience in all of those, so you can let me know. And if you have any doubt for this, then I will surely try to answer all of those. Right. Now coming back to the Nessus, so this is what they are telling. This is the Tenable community over there. They are identifying the CVEs. Here you can see Microsoft addresses 88 CVEs with 7 critical vulnerabilities and 10 zero-day vulnerabilities. This is what I was trying to say. Okay, the zero-day vulnerabilities. Now Microsoft, one more catch is there. Microsoft runs Patch Tuesday. Okay, that Patch Tuesday, what that means is the Patch Tuesday is like on every month of second Tuesday. Microsoft releases the patches for all the zero-day vulnerabilities, right? Or if they have identified any type of vulnerability, so they are releasing the patches on second Tuesday of every month for all these vulnerabilities. Those are present on their own environment, Microsoft environment. Okay, so this was all about the patch Tuesday, right? So this is the data which you will identify, okay, with on which update they have included for patches. .NET and Visual Bot, IoT, SDK. Basically, these tools we are using on cloud, by the way. Okay. Microsoft Office, for this, they have also released a patch. Office Excel, they have also released a patch. So this is the database which you will identify, and all the information related to the CVE IDs. Again, if I click over here, then this will give you the exact details about the vulnerabilities and how those vulnerabilities are working for them. Now, I will tell you the one more functionality of the vulnerability scanners, right? First of all, I would like to tell you the functionality, how exactly they are working. So understand this one, Microsoft Copilot is student information disclosure vulnerability. Okay, they have identified. Now all these vulnerability details this Microsoft is already having, right? Now Microsoft has created their own database. Okay, like if Microsoft has this vulnerability on their any of the system, they have collected the information. Okay, how anyone can exploit this. Okay, now this is the vulnerability on this particular versions if we have. Okay, so attack vector is this. For the network, we have the vulnerable component is bound to the network. So all these information they have gathered. Okay, and they have created a database, right? This is a critical vulnerability which I was talking about. I just show you the critical vulnerability over there, right? And on 6th of August 2024, they have identified on what? On Microsoft Copilot Studios, right? What is the CVSS? Okay, so there is nothing for this particular, right? So the data they have gathered. Now, what Nessus will do, I can tell you. So just going over there, what was that? Okay, open the new one. Now understand this. This is Microsoft database. Okay, Microsoft database, I can say, right? Now this Microsoft has identified one of the vulnerabilities. Okay, now this is the Nessus database. I'm just telling you the genuine or the basic functionality of the analyzer, or you can say the vulnerability management. Now this is the database of Nessus, suppose. Okay, one of the common functionality. Now Microsoft has got some type of vulnerabilities over there. Now it is sharing with the Nessus, right? What type of vulnerabilities they have found, what was the CPID, what was the score, how this happened, what was the code, malicious code, whatever the details which I just show you on your screens, right? For Microsoft. Now this is sharing the details with the Nessus. Okay. Now this is the same like if any FortiGate firewall has identified the vulnerabilities for them. Now the FortiGate again will share all the details with Nessus for their cloud. Now this is the Nessus tool which I just downloaded. Okay, this is the Nessus tool which I just downloaded. Okay, so what this will do is this will simply how it will scan and how this tool will know. So this Nessus tool is gathering the detail from this Nessus servers. Nessus server is gathering all the vulnerability details from this FortiGate applications of the server, and they are sharing They are working on sharing model of all the vulnerabilities, details, and each and everything, every functionality related to that particular vulnerability. Now, this Nessus tool, if this Nessus tool is scanning any type of Microsoft applications, Microsoft Office suppose, okay. Now this has all the functionality which this Microsoft has shared, what type of vulnerability they have, how they can exploit it, what is the functionality, is there any patches released or not, CVID, CVSS, scores, everything. Okay, so this will go there, and if it is scanning, then this will identify, okay, Microsoft Office was having this particular vulnerability, what was the version, on which operating system it was having the vulnerability over there. And this is how it will create a report, create for you guys, and you can simply fetch it out, and you can start working, okay, then for this Microsoft Office I have this type of vulnerability. And at the back end, how Nessus has worked, Microsoft Debian FortiGate Firewall has already shared these type of things. Okay, so this is how exactly the vulnerability management tools are working. Okay, now I have showed you this, right? So here you can see the patch Tuesday as well, Microsoft Workers 2024 patch Tuesday addresses, right? So patch Tuesday you can see. Okay, Similar Electric has also some type of acute problem or the vulnerabilities they have identified, right? So exactly this is how we are working, and this is how they are giving you the community editions as well, from where you can see that, okay, this is exactly going on. Now I will tell you that how you can run a scan for an Nessus, okay, and what type of functionalities and components this Nessus is providing. This is Nessus Essential I have downloaded. You can download if you have the license. This is a free version, okay, which I am using. If you want to download it, then you can download those licensed one as well. So please let me know what all the other components for Nessus which are not free, which are under the license inside the comment box that is open for you guys. Now get back to you, get back to this. If I'm running a new scan, okay, I will click on new scan. Then here you will be able to see that host discovery. Now I want to work on the host. If I want to scan all of those, right? Then if I want to run a basic network scan inside my devices, okay, so you can run advanced scan, you can run malware scan, whatever the devices are connected, I will run those, right? So I would like to show you one demo, right? I will open CMV, okay, going over here, uh, increasing the size. Okay, this is enough, right? Now I will run the ipconfig. This is the detail which I got right now. I am identify what all the devices are connected inside your organization. You can simply get the IP addresses of that device. Okay, once you copy it, you can simply go on this, right? So all these scanning you can run. You can even run for the mobile services scan, web application tests. You can run Intel AMD security bypasses there. You can run for this CVID. If you want to identify the particular CVID, you can also run for those as well. Okay, you can also run the complete scans as well, right? So if you want to run for the ransomware ecosystem, is there anything going on, or you can also scan for those one as well. But I will run a basic scan, okay, the host discovery. Now I will run a scan. I will give this scan a name, scan one. I do not want to give any such type of descriptions because this is just a normal scan. Now the target I will apply inside my network, okay, within my network. I will give this same IP here, go and scan my PC which I am using now. So here you can see I have applied the targets over here. Right. After giving the targets, I will, if I want to schedule this, then I can enable it. No, I do not want to schedule it. Notification, if you want to get the email notification that once it is done, or what if you want to get the report, so you can schedule it and it will simply give you the report. But for that, you have to schedule the access SMTP server for which mail transferring protocol you have to work. Then these all are the functions of medium and large organizations, as I told you, right? The discovery, host enumeration, what type of thing you want to find and on which type of thing you want to focus on. Whether you want for host enumeration, OS identification, just go and identify for that. If you want to run for port scan, if you want to run for all ports, if you want to run for custom. So if I am selecting for OS identification, let's suppose, okay, so this will work on ping this. This will send a ping host using TCP, ARP, ICMP. So this is what functionality it is using in the backend, right? So this is already telling you what this particular scan will do if you want to work on OS identification. Yesterday, if I know for network security, I told you that how we are running for NS lookup and we are identifying the OS, right? So this is not doing that particular job, but yes, there are something else type of things, the scannings they will do for OS identification of my host, which I'm using right now. If you want to schedule a report, you can get the report for this. Yes, designated host, I need this. I need everything. Advanced search, yeah, show down the scan when network congestion is detected. So these are the basics, right? Okay, so this has launched the scan one, which you can see up here. Okay, so this is right now running. So this is how exactly it will run the scan for you guys if you are using the Nessus. Okay, and this will take few minutes, which means 1 minute or 2 minutes, and after that it will how exactly we are working on vulnerability management side. And this Tenable Nessus is one of the best tools, and this is the market leader in vulnerability management. You can download it and you can use it for free, and you can simply use it and try, and you can skill it out. No problem for that. This is a most demanding tool, I must say, and the Tenable has the name and the Nessus has the name in the market. Okay, most of the industries and most of the organizations, cybersecurity, those who are working in cybersecurity field, they are using this. Right. So this is what we have. If you have any questions, please write down in the comment section. Okay. So I will simply go and I will try to respond most of those. Okay. And if you have anything and if you are looking into the after ending of this live session, so you can simply write your comment in the comment box and I will try to answer all of them. Right. So right now this is running, and this is which means scheduled on demand, which means I run a manual scan. Okay, and it is still running. So till the time I will send the policies, what type of policies we can create, if is there any, right, for all of them, right, for which you can run the malware scans and all plugins. There are no plugin roots which we have, but simply we can create the host list. We can provide a pair plugin ID if we have any of those, and we can simply give up. Then one of the my scan is done. Okay, the scan is done. It has okay. So my operating system is Windows 11, which I am using right now. My host is DND. The name of the host is DND. Okay, and the ports are open. These are the ports which are open on my system. Okay, I will go and close all of these. I cannot show the exact vulnerabilities, what type of vulnerabilities they have found, right? Because I do not want to share this vulnerability on live or on YouTube publicly, right? So this is what exactly you will find, or these type of vulnerabilities they will give to you. Okay, this is how exactly Nessus can for you guys, and this was vulnerability management for you guys. Thank you all. Thanks for joining this session. Let me meet you tomorrow, same time.